Okay. Good day, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar, which will be focusing on new tools for tuberculosis detection. You are all welcome from every country you are joining from, and we are pleased to have you spend some time with us and to learn about how the various technologies are being used in countries such as Tajikistan, Ethiopia, Kenya, and Vietnam. At the end of this webinar, we are looking forward to you getting some valuable insights and key learning points in your journey to advance TB screening in your various countries. So shortly, I would present to you the agenda for this webinar, and then we can go straight to it. All right, so once again, you are welcome. Sorry, one second. All right, so once again, you're welcome to today's webinar. So as a form of an agenda, we will have a welcome address by the CEO of Delft Imaging after this short introduction. And then we have Sandrine introducing our various presenters to us. We will have 4 amazing presentations from our speakers. There will be a platform for question and answers, so feel free to note your questions if you have them. And then there will be vote of thanks by Florence, and then we end with some wrap up. Once again, welcome, and we are pleased to have you join us. Okay, so some background house rules to help us coordinate this webinar effectively. Kindly stay muted if you are not speaking or if you've not been given the platform. There'll be a platform for questions and answers, so please don't be bothered about that. We will have that. And most importantly, we have languages available. We'll be having simultaneous translations. So please choose the language that works best for you. We have English, we have French, and we have Russian. Kindly select them to ensure that you are getting the language you understand at all times during the presentations. Also, we have a Q&A box for questions. Kindly direct all your questions to that channel, and then we will address it either within the webinar or at the end at the Q&A session. So once again, I welcome you all from all countries, and we are pleased to have you. And to give us the formal welcome address, I will invite Guido Gritz, who is the CEO of Delft Imaging, to welcome all of us.
Yes, thank you very much, Manuela. Thank you, my colleagues in Ghana and here in the Netherlands for preparing this webinar. A warm welcome to everybody attending this webinar, and a special thanks to the international presenters for today from Vietnam, Kenya, Ethiopia, and Tajikistan. So just to give you a short introduction of our company, and I just realized I have to talk a little bit slowly because we are simultaneously translating this presentation. Please, for the next slides. So for the people who don't know our company, Delft Imaging has been in tuberculosis screening for more than 70 years, so since the 50s of the former century. A couple of days ago, I looked into the old photo album we have, and I came up with this photo on the left side, which was made in a factory in Delft. And if you can read in the lower right corner, you can see it's mentioning mobile photo Röntgen unit, which actually means mobile X-ray unit. So this, what is for us a gigantic X-ray machine, it's an Odelka. It's in that time was seen as a mobile system. So you could actually put it in your car, but it took a while to set this up. And the interesting thing is that the approach was quite similar to what we do today. At that time, we already knew how important it was to be mobile with screening and to reach the real remote areas. But it was since just a couple of years that we could improve this kind of technology with what you see on the right side, the backpack X-ray, that nowadays is battery powered and you can charge it with solar energy. So the interesting thing, what we would like to stress is that the approach was quite similar. The technology is very different. So the Odelkas actually, we were producing them from the 50s till about the 80s. I think we produced about 20,000 of these systems, and all focusing on screening of tuberculosis. Next slide, please. So one of the other approaches we had at that time was the doctor you see on the left, not only trying to see if this person had tuberculosis or not, but also writing all this information down on paper. So I think a bit more than 10 years ago, we came up with the invention called CAT for TB. We were the first one with artificial intelligence to be used for TB screening. And nowadays we expanded this with not only a CAT score, so is a person presumptive of tuberculosis, but also is patient information, much more data around the patient, his lab result, the gene expert results, and to combine this and to integrate this in much more management information. I think that's the key topic nowadays as well, how to get more data and how to transform this data into information. So with this kind of techniques, you can also have, for example, 10 locations with CAT for TB in remote areas, and you can centralize this to one cloud solution where you can have a collective information of the total project you're trying to establish. And that kind of information you can do on instant. And that is something that gives a lot of extra value. Next slide, please. So this technique of backpack X-ray, so very portable X-ray machines, and CAT for TB, we have a lot of experience already for several years now, but it wasn't until the WHO acknowledged this in their new guidelines 2 years ago that it really expanded in an extremely rapid way. So we've introduced and installed hundreds of backpack X-rays and probably almost 1,000 of the CAT for TB boxes worldwide. And we learned a lot of this. And the interesting thing, if you expand it in this phase to all these different countries worldwide, you also encounter other challenges. And the interesting thing for today is to hear from the people in the field. We have 4 presenters today. What were their challenges? What went well? What didn't went well? And what did we learn about this? And we tried to make this as objective as possible and be a platform to the attendees to learn for their own projects. So for us, this is a very important way of communicating with you. And interesting, what I find interesting today is that we have this new innovation where we also do simultaneously the translation. We have a lot of attendees from Russian-speaking countries and French-speaking countries today. So I hope that I didn't speak too rapidly for the translators, and I hope you will learn a lot from the information you get today. Thank you very much, and I would like to go to the first presenter. Thanks.
Thank you, Guido, so much for running us through the history of the company and how far we have come. It's very interesting to know how we've been evolving over the years. So for today's webinar, my name is Emanuela Mwakon. I'll be moderating this webinar with my colleague, Sandrine Gonsalves.
Hello, hello everyone. We have come to the most interesting session of our webinar, where our speakers will be taking us through different topics in relation to the new tools for detection, TB detection in their various countries. I'm honored to introduce to you our speakers for the day. We have Dr. Daniel Gemechu from Ethiopia. We have Dr. Ngok An from Vietnam. We have Dr. Nurov Rustam Majidovich from Vietnam, and we have Dr. Brenda Mungai from Kenya. So for the first presentation for today, we'll invite Dr. Daniel Gemechu, who is Chief of Party for USAID Eliminate TB Project, Management Sciences for Health in Ethiopia. Dr. Gemechu, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much for having me for this session. I'll be presenting about introduction of CAD for TB in Ethiopian National TB Program and practically give the lessons that we have from the field and show you the challenges we have and what we are looking forward to, like in a way we can best use this technology in high TB burden country like Ethiopia. Next slide. Ethiopia is one of high TB and TB-HIV burden countries, recently removed from DRTB burden countries and having an incidence of tuberculosis, which is as high as 132 per 100,000 populations. And the treatment coverage over time is progressively improving and increasing, as you could see from the graph. It has been low for longer time and currently is really increasing, and we are having very much improving case finding. The prevalence survey that was conducted in the country has clearly indicated that about half of the patients that we have in the country are asymptomatic. And then as you could see, having asymptomatic patients makes it very difficult to identify patients using the already existing case finding strategies, which mainly focuses on symptom-based TB screening. Meaning that if you use symptom-based TB screening, we'll be missing half of the patients which are already existing or incident TB patients in the country. With this one, with the estimate, we are currently missing about a fifth of TB patients which are estimated to be identified. Next slide. Being as a fact that using X-ray for TB screening as a long time known experience, there has been a major limitations in the country in terms of using just X-ray for screening TB patients. As you know, using highly sensitive TB screening tools is very important, but I think failing to use that was actually limits the capacity of addressing the needs of the patients, which actually have to be diagnosed by these technologies. So there is a limited use of chest X-ray screening for TB in country, compounded by inadequate number of human resources available in country to be able to use technologies of digital X-rays. There is a major health system challenge because more professions are located in urban areas, so you will leave the majority of rural population without access. And then, the infrastructure required for the previously known digital technologies is very much high, and it requires a lot of human resources and investment. Then besides this, the health system cost and challenge, it also impacts the capacity of the patients to get access to highly sensitive TB screening tools. So these are the major challenges we are having as a country in terms of reaching out for the patients, which we need to find and treat and give them adequate quality of care. Next slide. So based on the epidemiology of tuberculosis in the country, and also the available global guidance in terms of using highly sensitive diagnostic tools, we have worked with the country program, and the country program actually included the use of digital technologies in TB screening as part of the national strategic planning. And also, as you could see on the right side, the recently revised national guideline actually includes the use of digital X-rays in screening TB patients. So what remained in the country was having local evidence to see how they are practically working in the fields, and also having higher level advocacy for policymakers to make it very much usable and applicable in the context we are living in. As a country, following this revision of the guideline and strategic planning, the country introduced 4 vans, AI-mounted vans in the country. These are introduced to pastoralist communities. The community are very much mobile. We cannot really fix facility and make them come and use the service. So the country introduced mobile vans to the pastoralist communities of the 4 regions. As you could see, there are 2 in Somalia region and 1 in Oromia and 1 in Afar. So these 4 vans are dispatched to the communities to start the work of using the vans in terms of using AI for TB screening. Next. So this is just to give you how the pastoralist community look like. So, and the van which is actually available in one of the regions called Afar. So the community is actually mobile. You cannot bring them to a facility to reach and access the very much fixed health system. So now we use the vans in that areas. These vans are placed at in the pastoralist communities. The overall national orientation was provided. The health professionals were trained, and they were aware how to use these vans and how to use the AI technology in the pastoralist communities. So the placement was very much supported by linking communities with the stations where the vans are moving for TB screening. And then they have placed a medical team linked with qualified health professionals and facilities. And then that started operation in the pastoralist communities. So this is how the vans which are mounted with AI technology are very much helpful for a community which is really mobile, which cannot really get them in a fixed place. Next slide. So with this implementation, actually, it only lasted 6 months. I have the data for the 6 months. We need to add more updated data. So there has been a screening which was conducted in the communities, and also additional testing was done to confirm the diagnosis using GeneXpert technology. So as you could see in one of the regions which we call Oromia, close to 4,000 people were reached out for TB screening with this technology. And then initially we screened like around 6,005 patients only using symptom. And also the same patient were accessed the AI digital X-ray card for TB. And then as you could see, the number of TB patients which are diagnosed from this is around 118 using back confirmation. And you could see how the card for TB has contributed in terms of reaching out patients in the pastoralist community. In Afar, it has also reached around 760 people, and then we screened around 445 clients who have TB symptoms. And then among them, you could see around 62 patients were back positive among those who are screened by AI technology. And in Somalia also, we have found around 92 patients using back positive, but around 300 accessed actually the AI technology for screening. So in the overall, close to 4,000 people were screened using the technology. And operationally, we've seen how it was possible to operate with this technology in the pastoralist communities, and it has actually contributed to the increase in number of TB patients. More than 120 patients were diagnosed and linked to care because of the access people got while mounting the technology on mobile vans. Next. So based on experience from this, there has been very much increasing interest in the country to implement this technology. So there are local partners now which are coming in and trying to procure more technology to be used in their operation area. So one is Reach as a local organization, which is now trying to get more technology to be used in urban areas. And also from our side, as Management Science for Health, implementing USAID elementary project in the whole country, which is literally covering around 6 regions of the country. And the major regions like Amara, Oromia, Southern region are very much part of the project implementation. And then we have also presence in the zones where you can actually implement the advanced technologies. So with existing nationally existing vans, what we are doing is now two of the implementation areas are also in our operation sites. So we'll be maximally using these technologies to improve TB screening in the areas. And also in addition, we have also more interest in terms of using it for TB elimination studies, and also to increase access to screening in pastoralist communities, which are highly mobile. So this is the scope of areas we are working, and the increased interest which is within the country to use the advanced technology, which is AI mounted. Next slide. So one of the things that we are really doing is, from the map, as you could see below, there is a massive variation in terms of disease burden across different provinces in the country. And also this actually mainly affects some of pastoralist communities. And also we find that disease very much in a place where it is highly dense, and also hotspots where you have to really make interventions and really reach out for the patients to screen them at a time and also provide them treatment. So the areas you could see like in red are what we call our hotspots, which are mapping in the country. And these are the areas where you can use the CAD4TB and AI mount technology in terms of easily identifying patients, as most of our patients are actually asymptomatic and we need to use the technology to assist the gap we are having in the country. Next slide. So as I have said earlier, we also needed more local experience, more local evidence, and also we need to really advocate to the higher level for the national TB program to allocate more resources, to also expand the geographic areas and also use them with integrating it to the routinely existing health system. So we actually started a small scale piloting and trying to show that even whenever patients are coming to facilities, only screening them by symptoms actually leaves an opportunity for patients to be missed from diagnosis and treatment. So as you could see from the graph, the red ones, the number of patients we found around 76. These are patients who came to facilities. They were asymptomatic. They only have high risk. And then if they were done by routine programming, they could have been definitely missed. So using screening by digital X-rays actually gives opportunity, not only reaching out for more patients, but also reduces the chance of missing patients within the facility and increase case finding. So this is an evidence really coming from we are bringing up for higher policymakers to expand the use of technology so that you can reach more patients and also improve case finding and provide quality of care. Next slide. So having said this, as I've mentioned earlier, in terms of the overall challenge that we are having, one, the infrastructure need is massive. If you are using the well-structured health system, which is fixed, one. The second point I mentioned was that there is limited number of radiologists who can actually read the X-ray result from the films. And then most of them are actually based in only urban areas, and there is very much limit for the patient, the pastoralist community and rural to be able to access these services. And also the cost it has on the patient, and also the impact it has on case finding. So to address these things, there are strategic areas where we need to increase our engagement if you have to really influence the policy and encourage and also help the country to use more of the technology. So one of the things we can really do more is to work on building the national capacity. So this is, I think, one of the platforms. Also, national program has seminar sessions where they have been receiving information about the global experience. This is being shared, and so we have to increase and maximize global experience sharing from different countries, how they operationalize, how they implement it, how they actually face challenges and also address them in practice. The second area where we need to really increase our engagement is we need to support local evidence generation. So as I've mentioned earlier, the 4 vans which are AI mounted with CAD for TB had actually provided more evidence that they showed the capacity of filling the gaps that the health system is having, the human resource capacity, the infrastructure capacity, and the cost capacity is really being addressed by using this technology. So it's technically and operationally, information and evidence is really coming more, and we need to increase building on this one. The third one is usually as a policy for policymakers, the most difficult thing that they are coming is they say, okay, it is cost effective. So having local evidence generation and testing patients with technology actually has shown or indicates how effective this is, and also it gives local governments to be able to really plan according to the effectiveness and its utility for the community. And then the third area where we need to really increase in terms of introducing technology to further to larger scale is, one, we need to have regular dialogue and engagement with policymakers. So they need to be aware, because as I've mentioned to you, we know the prevalence survey misses. The patients are missed by prevalence survey when they are asymptomatic. But in practice, we are not really, countries are not really going forward and using the targeted tools that can actually identify the patient. So increasing dialogue with national TB programs and also policymakers is one of the key areas of engagement. And the second key area to be engaged is engagement with professional associations. So it's good that we are aware. The clinical team is really using these ones, but higher impact could easily come by engaging professional associations. So one of the key ones in country where we're engaging are the Radiological Society of Ethiopia is one of the important actors, because they work with policymakers about the technology, about its utility, and also they also engage their professionals that are working in the facilities, be it in urban or in the rural. So bringing them on board, working with them, and also empowering them to understand the technology actually increase the capacity of bringing in more technologies, also including the training and capacity building into continued professional development of the country, and also increases the utility so that we can actually bring on board more patients to get the service that they can provide. The second association we are engaging with is the Ethiopian Thoracic Society. So these are the clinical team. They are in the driving seat in terms of the overall pulmonary care of the country. So engaging them actually makes it very easy to work with the biggest and bigger university hospitals, which are very big ones, where they give their technical leadership for clinicians working in the fields, and also bring the knowledge of the advancement, its utility, and its practical application. So this level of engagement will actually make and rapidly change the capacity and the interest and the level of utility of these technologies in country. The last point from of area that we have to really engage is like, in some areas, we'll have countries have some operational challenges. They may not really able to use because of limited resources. So what we do from our side, like a project, we really pull resources together, support facilities to be able to use it. Even we try to mobilize their technologies to be used in different parts of the country. So engaging in terms of pulling resources together, pulling our technical capacity together, catalyzing the efforts that the countries are countries are making in terms of using technology is very much important. So finally, this technology is we found it very usable. One, because of the disease epidemiology requires it, that patients should not be missed. Two, it's very simple. It fills the gap of the deficient human resource capacity in country, so that it can actually assist them to easily read the radiologic findings and also interpret and make conclusive conclusion about the disease. And third, it actually facilitates and also assists the patient to easily access whenever it's mounted, like whenever it is mobile, and it can be reachable where it is highly required and highly needed. So we continue advocating for this, and will be also, as I've said, we are intending to do eliminate TB study in the fields where we are intending to use this technology to screen rural communities, more than 200,000 people in the field, so that we can actually easily access them, easily screen, easily test, and also easily get the results, so that actually can increase our case finding, can actually fill our gaps, which is mainly about the infrastructure and human resource, and also increase case finding and quality of service we can provide. And this is very much welcome in the country, and NTP is very much interested, and we are working with NTP to continue to advocate for this one. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Gamichu, for taking us through this. And it's very interesting to see how our technology is being used in Ethiopia, being a high burden TB country. It's very interesting to know we are contributing immensely to that. Okay, so as a reminder, please, if you've not selected the language preferred by you, kindly do so. We have 3 languages available. We have English, French, and Russian. So kindly choose what works best for you. Thank you. So for our next presentation, we'll be taking through the Delft Slide Portable X-ray and CAT for TB, focusing on the challenges and the opportunities that has been experienced in the implementation in Vietnam. So to do that for us will be the program coordinator and senior researcher at the Vietnam National Lung Hospital, Dr. Ngoc An, would be taking us through that.
So hello everyone. So on behalf of Vietnam National Lung Hospital, I will talk some information on the opportunities and the challenge in implementation of the new tool project in Vietnam. Next slide. Next slide, please. So there are 4 key information that I'm going to share in this presentation is our preparation on implementing the new tool projects with some key milestones. The second is about the double X strategies that we are going to use in Vietnam, especially after COVID-19 pandemic. Thirdly, we will provide some information on the implementation of the active case finding, as well as the identifies case finding as health facilities. And the last one will be some challenge in implementing the project in 10 provinces in Vietnam. Next, please. So let's talk about the preparation for the project. We actually, next slide, please. We actually signed agreement with Top TB partnership in May 2021, and it takes about 6 months to get the importation permit for all the UP X-ray system as well as the gas for TB. And then in Jan 2020, we received all the UP X-ray system and gas for TBs. And this arrives Vietnam before Tết holidays. That's the reason why we conduct the trainings for the central level as well as the province staff in February 2020 and in March in 2020. We following the guideline from the debt companies before we transfer the UP system to the province. We sign a warranties agreement and send back to debt before sending out the EP's E-grade system to the province and to do the installation outside in February and March. Actually, it is done right after the training session, and the implementation start in some province in March in 2020, and I will share some information about the implementations in the section 3 of this presentation. Next slide. So let's talk about the UP E-grade and gas for TB implementation in 10 provinces. So as you can see that following the Vietnam laws, we need a kind of license registration with the local authority. So you can see up to date, we still have 3 provinces that still pending on getting the approval from local authorities on the certificates of the verification as well as the jet E-grade license for implement such kind of system in their activities. The second column, as you can see that this is the way that the province decide to use the UP E-grade system in their NTP activities like in Hanoi. Only in Hanoi we use this system for health facility activities. Most of the province have used the system for both active case at community and health facilities. Next, please. So let's talk about some information about the double X strategy in Vietnam. This is also the opportunities for our implementation in this project. Next, please. So there is, the COVID-19 pandemic is affects much on the NTB control and the achievement of the NTBs nationwide. You can see that many states of COVID-19, and we reach the fourth waves of the COVID-19 is much effect to the national control TB program. Next slide, please. So we can see the big gap. Next, please. The big gap in the notification compared to the one that we have in 2021. So actually, compared to the when we compare the data from 2021 with 2020, we can see the overall reduction of in notification is around 2%, and when we compare to the data in quarter 1 2022 compared to the notification rate in 2021, we can see there's still a significant reduction in TB notification, which is worth 70.8%. Next, please. That is the reason why the NTB strategy is designed to optimize the use of experts and E-grade in detecting TB case, especially in after COVID-19 pandemics, and because of the TB reduction is really affect to the achievement to the ambitious goal of the ending TB by 2020. Double X has been expanded to nationwide for active case at communities. And because of the effect of the COVID-19 wave, the first wave, from January 2020, the leader of NTBs also decided to use the double X strategies, expand to all the TB health facilities beside the active case at community for high risk group. Next, please. So actually, the WHO is issued on October in 2020, and it had been updated in 2021, of which AI were added to the algorithm. And this strategy is applied in active case finding at communities as well as the routine and identify case finding as a health facility. Next, please. So this the picture is the day that we roll out the double strategies that applies for the ITK fighting in 2020. Next, please. The double strategies we focus on the target group for the the high risk group people, household context, the alcohol, the smoker, or the elder age above 60 years old, and as well as the presumptive TB. Next, please. The slide is showing the algorithm that we use in ITK fighting at community level. And next slide will show you the algorithm that we apply in health facility. As you can see that beside the target group that I mentioned in the previous slide, we use this for the routine activity screening as well. So that's the reason why we add the group of presumptive TB here in the first box of the algorithm. Next, please. So let's talk about the implementation of the Newton TB projects in Vietnam. Next, please. So there are many activities that we conduct as 10 province that receive the 10 UPX system in Vietnam. Firstly, we develop a technical guideline on UPX and CAS for TB implementation, and we use the resource, the reference from the guidance from the Delft company, as well as the information that we receive from research from other activities, similar activities implementation. During the project, we also decide to conduct a monthly coordination meeting. There are 2 coordination meetings within a month. The first one will be the coordination meeting between NTBs and the Stop TB partnership and other stakeholders that support for the new TB project implementation. The second one will be the routing meeting with between NTBs essential level with 10 provinces that receive the 10 UPE system. We also provide some the technical support through social WhatsApp or Zalo. This is with an application in Vietnam. And this group involves all the technicians and the focal boy, as well as the NTB leader in this group to in order to provide support and answer in a good time manner any question that raised from the province. We also conduct the fellowship report to supervise as well as provide support in connecting the UP system and the connecting system with the active findings activities at provincial level. We also realize with the Delft company and other stakeholders to discuss about the test hole calibration as well as the printing team. We also discuss some, the solution that to optimize the implementation of the project, the active finding community as well as the health facilities. We also provide some guidance on the extracting data, the images from the CAT4TB system for further consultation by the medical committees. Next, please. So here is the way that we use the UP X-ray and CAT4TB in active case finding. As you can see in the picture that we use the system together with the mobile band X-rays. The left hand side, the picture on the left hand side is the mobile X-ray that we have for any active fading, and on the right hand side it is the system that we receive from the stock TV partnership with these from debt companies. Next, please. So it is a way that people, set up the system when they do the ATK finding as well. So as you can see that most of the plates that they set up the UP system is at community health level, community health station. Next, please. And because we have CAS for TB as well as in the algorithm, all the abnormals check rating will be referred to the doctor to review again before decides to provide the expert test for TB's diagnosis. So this is on the left hand side. This is the one that the doctor can see the result of the check X-ray readings through gas 40 bit, and the second one, as you can see, we have two screens. The one on the right hand side, it is the laptop that we provided together with the UP system, and the second screen on the left hand side is the one that we bring in any active fading. People from the active finding, they will send the image of any abnormal check X-ray film to a kind of app, and with this Zalo here. So to the doctor, and he can review the film and decide whether we can refer this patient to further test for TB diagnosis. Next, please. So one of the issues that we recognize during the fellowship is it takes long time to hang the detector in the good time manner, followed by the lights from the dead. So we decide and discuss with the stakeholder and USAID Vietnam that there have a kit here. As you can see, it may have, it can be used for hang the detector of the UP X-ray system in a good time manner. So the quality of the check X-ray is not affected by unstable of the detectors. Next, please. So this is a project report that we received in Q1 2020. We got very few province received. There are 5 provinces received the training in February, and they also received support from our local authority as well as the Global Fund budget to do the active case finding. So as you can see, very few provinces have conduct the active case findings in Q2. Only 4 provinces have report their data and activities in Q2. And because of this, after screening, we have only identified 9 TB patients amongst around 2,000 cases that screening in Q1 2022. Next, please. This slide shows the project up to Q2 2020. So only once a province that they didn't report the data because of some issue in setting up the UP X-rays, and I believe that the liaisons have to send the request to the desk service about this issue, and also we are going to go to this province to understand exactly the issue of the UP X-ray system setup in this province and have more idea on how we can solve this problem. So that is the reason why we have only 7 provinces have data in quarter 2 2020. But in general, as you can see in the slide, that we detect around 80 patients TB both in bacteria confirmed as well as the clinical TB case amongst 6,000 TBs and 6,000 people that screened for TBs in active case finding as well as the identified case findings at health facility. Next, please. So during the fellowship, as well as the, from the time that we start the implementation of the active case finding at community level, as well as the identifies case finding at health facilities, we have some challenges that face as well. Please, next, please. So we, as you can see in the previous slide, we use the X-ray system in parallel with the mobile jet erase van because of the, the capacity of the UP erase system. It takes, only 200 film a day. While the active case findings normally we see about 1,000 case per day. So that is the reason why we do need the mobile X-ray vans go together with UP X-rays in the active case finding. And that is mean that we need more staff for jet X-ray screening for TB only. And the second thing is about the batteries, because this is a limitation of the time that you can use battery. So it, it may be delays, create some delay in jet X-ray screening, and it may affect to the whole, process of active case finding at community level. And as mentioned in previous slide, it takes time to have the detector in a good time manner to ensure the good quality of the jet X-rays. And we also discussed about this, and we suggest that have a kind of kit that is made by Vietnam company. So we may purchase such kind of kit to have the detector as guided in the manuals from there. And the fourth thing is about the threshold, because for the initial time when we do the screening, the threshold is fixed, and we cannot calibrate it beyond some information on the high variance and some factor that that affected to the threshold level because it is fixed, so it may lead to inappropriate use of expert test in some setting, because it's fixed, and then we may use the expert test more than expected. And the last one is related to the printing film from the system, because if a person who have abnormal inject X-ray film, but they don't have any physical symptom, so it is necessary, it is required from the national guideline that we need to print out the film and bring it to the medical consultations committee to review. And for the first time, it is take time for us. It takes about 1 month with support from IT technician at the hospital to fix this issue. So the first connecting between printing machine with the UV X-ray system is had just completed in Cần in early this month. So it is the challenges that we face when we implement the TB Newton project using the UV jet X-ray system in Vietnam. So that is for this is all. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Ngok An, and thank you for taking us through this insightful presentation and letting us know the opportunity and challenges and key activities that has been put in place to implement these systems in Vietnam. So if you have any question, kindly put them in the Q&A box, and at the end of this session, we'll answer them all. We'll be taking a 5-minute break, but before then, we would like to know where you are dialing in from in the chat box. Where are you joining us from? Okay. Okay. So we'll take a 5-minute break if you want to have coffee and stretch up. So we'll see you in the next 5 minutes. Hello, everyone. You are welcome back. Okay, from the poll, we see people logging in from South Africa, Switzerland, Vietnam, Kazakhstan, Canada, Indonesia, Zambia, and many more other countries. We are happy to have you spending some time with us. So moving on, we would like to remind you that there is a Q&A box. If you have any question, you can drop them in, and there will be a section of Q&A at the end of the last presentation where we will answer all your questions. So moving forward, we'll take our next presentation from Dr. Nurovrostav Majidovich, who is the Director of Republican Center for the Protection of the People from Tuberculosis, Ministry of Health and Social Protection, Republic of Tajikistan. He's going to take us through practical application of portable digital X-ray systems in tuberculosis, service of Republic of Tajikistan. Kindly choose the English channel or the Russian channel or French to actually follow this presentation. Thank you. Dr. Rustam, the floor is yours.
Dear friends, dear colleagues, good afternoon. First of all, I would like to share some information with you on application of portable X-ray devices. But these X-ray devices are not used in van. They have been used as a portable Delft devices, which we have recently received, and it's not been so long, but still we are using it in our practice. We have received these appliances in March, thanks to our partners from USAID, and we had also a trainer to help us to train our personnel on how to operate this equipment. And first of all, we have trained 3 persons, and these persons were staff members of Republican Center of TB elimination in Republic of Tajikistan. And by now, we have managed to screen over 3,000 of people, and mostly these people reside in the regions with which are facing the challenges in undertaking screening. I mean, remote areas or mountainous areas. And first of all, I would like to specify such important moments, such as what were the groups of populations whom we have screened with the kind assistance of our staff members. We have managed to screen people, and you can see that the statistics. And in Sogt province, we have screened more than 2,000 of persons, and you can see that 43 persons have been confirmed with active TB out of 121 persons who have been suspected to have a TB. And also, actually, one of very remote areas, which is Aini district, actually school leadership came up with a request to us to undertake screening in the school because they have been suspecting, assuming that one of the teachers is might have a TB, and indeed we have undertaken a screening, and you can see that 22 persons have been suspected to have TB out of 480 persons who have been screened. And the Gen expert actually also confirmed TB. And three cases of active TB have been detected, and we are now embracing them with medical care. Thank you so much. And we had very interesting case. I would say that the Ministry of Defense, they had a unit, and they have in this unit, before even getting one young man admitted to this MOD unit, they have one person, I mean this medical commission detected TB, and after this MOD came up with the request to us to undertake screening, and indeed we went upon this request to this Ministry of Defense unit. There were, would you believe, it is very remotely located. It is 450 kilometers away from the capital of the country, but still we have traveled there to this remote location, and we have managed to identify the cases of active TB, and over 40 persons have been suspected to have TB, and after additional clinical tests and sputum test with Gen expert, we have managed to identify over 30 cases of active TB, and at the moment all of them are embraced with treatment. And also we had also received the request, and this request was submitted to us by the coal mine management. It was also located in Aini, very remotely located district, and you can see that among over 760 persons who have been working there, we have managed to identify 35 workers with suspected TB, and Gen expert has not confirmed any active cases of TB among these personnel. So, we have in Sokt province, we have examined 360 contact persons who were in contact with TB patients, and we have managed to identify 18 persons who might have a suspected TB cases, and after the sputum analysis at Gen expert, we have managed to identify 10 cases of active TB. Also, you can see that we have received a request from the psychiatric hospital, and actually we have managed to screen over 600 personnel, and you can see that at the moment at least we are screening the data, but by now we have not revealed any case of active TB among these patients. Moreover, we have managed to screen over 147 women and children who were returned back from Syria to Tajikistan, and there were 15 persons with suspected TB, but luckily we have managed to identify only 2 cases of active TB. Now all of them are embraced with medical care. As I have already mentioned, we have embraced 3,053 persons with screening of TB, and 146 persons with suspected TB have been identified. All of them underwent further gen expert clinical examination and DT tests, and we have managed to identify 45 cases of active TB in total. And at the moment, all these patients are receiving treatment. So there are some photos which I would like to share with you, and these photos reflect the process of screening among contact persons and the persons from vulnerable group, from risk group. And as a concluding remark, also I would like to especially note that these portable X-ray devices are especially efficient to use for application in remote areas, in mountainous areas, in rural areas, and you know, especially for mountainous regions, areas, you can use them with no issue. I do hope that in future we are going to expand such services, because thanks to the funds of our partners, we have also sent a request for at least 10 or 12 even such portable devices, and we do hope that in future they will be very useful for us to identify cases of TB in Tajikistan. And I do hope that in future, of course, it will definitely contribute to treatment of these patients. Thank you so much for your kind attention, and if there will be any questions from your side, please feel free.
Thank you very much, Dr. Rostam, for taking us through how our software is being used. Our Delft Light solution is being used in Tajikistan. And I must say it's a great work from your organization also, looking at the remarkable efforts you've been putting to ensure that you get screening done. Good job done. So moving on to our next presentation, we will look at the diagnostic accuracy of computer-aided chest X-ray tuberculosis screening. And to lead that is the Director of TB and Lung Health at the Center for Health Solutions in Kenya, Dr. Brenda Mungai. Please do not forget to drop your questions in the Q&A box. We've seen a couple of them and they'll be addressed accordingly. Do not also forget to select your preferred language, because this presentation will be given in English. Thank you very much. And Dr. Brenda, over to you.
All right. Good afternoon, all. I will be sharing, I'll be sharing my presentation. Thank you very much. All right, you will confirm that you can see my presentation on screen share? Okay, thank you. And thank you for the opportunity. So my name is Brenda Mungai. I am going to present on diagnostic accuracy of computer-aided chest X-ray tuberculosis screening. This is a study that we looked at the Kenya National TB Prevalence Survey findings. So Kenya did the prevalence survey in 2015-2016. And this was part of a doctoral study at that point. And that will be the outline of my presentation. Yeah, sorry, I'm trying to get this. I hope you can see my screen without the toggle bar. But so historically, as we know, miniature radiography was used for mass screening activities in the 20th century. And yes, indeed, a large pool of prevalent TB was detected. However, in 1974, the recommendation by WHO was to abandon indiscriminate TB case finding by mobile radiography. So reasons for halting this were, various. So there was uncertain transmission impact. Then it was costly, because you can see on the left, they had to go with big trucks. Logistically, it was challenging, and then highly skilled technicians were required, and also the intra and inter-reader variability that continues to affect us as when we do human reading. And then in general, the lack of specificity for chest x-rays. But in the 21st century, there's been renewed interest in chest x-ray for screening. And this is really, as some have noted earlier in their presentations, the finding from TB prevalence surveys that showed high sensitivity for pulmonary TB. And this was the case actually also in Kenya during the prevalence survey. And then we now know about 50% of the cases are symptomatic, but detectable through chest radiography. And then in 2021, again, this has been noted, those recommendations on use of computer-aided detection software. This was the first time that this was being recommended. And so, the step in the right direction for helping chest x-ray screening to be easier and faster, really. As part of the way of background, again, there's been studies done on different AI algorithms, and really across board have been shown to significantly outperform the radiologists in picking out possible TB that needs then sputum confirmation. And then, in this study by Jigen and team, only QXR and CAD for TB met the TPP at 90% sensitivity. So this is target product profile that WHO uses to consider a test one adequate for screening or not. Then all algorithms reduce the number of expert tests required by about 50% while maintaining sensitivity. In their study, and you'll see also this was a finding in our study, is that worse performance was seen among older age groups and people with a history of tuberculosis. Another study by McPherson et al. In Malawi showed that when you use X-ray and CAD for screening, this was in a HIV setting, time to TB treatment initiation was shorter compared to the standard of care, which is, waiting, asking about the symptoms, and then, once the symptoms are there, then screening for the patients. So in Kenya, we then did this, an evaluation of the accuracy, and this is the team that was involved in this study. We used, as you will see, CAD for TB version 6. I am aware that Delft has now version 7. So I will be reporting on the version 6 that we used then. So a bit of, quickly walking you through the prevalence survey procedures. We had 63,050 enrolled survey participants. All these were aged 15 years and above. They had to be residing in Kenya for a period of at least a month, so 30 consecutive days. And of course, consented to the study. So screening was done in two ways. One is that there was symptom screening for TB using cough for more than 2 weeks. So this is as per the recommendation by the Lyme book by WHO on prevalence surveys for TB. And also, all patients were offered chest x-ray screening. So you can see symptom screening were 100%, chest x-ray was about 99% with some declining, but also, a few times when once the system was down, those were not also offered, but everyone who did not get a chest X-ray screening was also offered sputum. We had to collect sputum from them. And then out of those that were eligible to submit sputum, then either one had cough for more than 2 weeks, or two had abnormal chest X-ray suggestive of TB, or they had both, so cough of more than 2 weeks and abnormal chest X-ray suggestive of TB, or they declined to have chest X-ray irrespective of the symptoms that I had said. From our prevalence survey, at 305 were bacteriologically confirmed TB. Now, the X-ray, so we'll focus mostly on those that got X-rays. So X-rays done were digitally acquired posterior anterior. We used the Delft imaging system with upload to digital archive. And then independent reading of each film was done by 2 clinical officers. This is at a field site level. They had received intensive training on chest X-ray. And so any chest X-ray that they classified as abnormal suggestive of TB, then that underwent sputum, as I had said earlier. So for the purposes of study, we'll be focusing on the 62,484. So we used the anonymized compressed 62,484 DICOM images that were uploaded to the Delft cloud server. So we procured the services from Delft for this purpose. And then processing and CAD analysis was then carried out, as I said, using version 6. CAD analysis was blended to microbiological results, and the study period was January 2020 to about August 2021. This is including all analysis. So in terms of statistical modeling, we fitted Bayes and mixed beta regression modeling to estimate sensitivity and specificity for latent variable of partially observed TB across the CAD threshold scores. So the covariates we were looking at was age of the participants, sex, cough more than 2 weeks. So that was part of what had been asked, and the previous history of TB. Now, the reason we did modeling is, remember, not everyone got sputum taken. So if you did not fit in the categories given, then we did not have sputum for you. And yet we know, there's a possibility of a few of those having actually still TB, even though not picked through the system. So prevalence survey participants. So remember the 62,484 that got X-ray done. So out of these, so we eliminated those that chest X-ray was not done, and those that analysis could not be conducted, probably because of image quality. So out of those, we got 15.5% were assessed by microbiological status. In our case, we used, so we did 3. So we did smear microscopy, we did gene expert, and culture. However, microscopy was not used as part of classification of bacteriologically confirmed. So our true status was confirmed by expert and culture. I'll share some of the results. So, sorry, just to say that out of this, 3.3% were bacteriologically confirmed, while 96.7% were negative. So what are participant characteristics? So about 70% of the participants were actually aged 45 years and below. And then the males were 41.5%. And then we had those above 65 were about 9.1%. From this table, sorry, I'm trying. Are you guys able to see beyond the toggle bar? I'm sorry about that, because I need to show you. I just need to move it here. Sorry, I'll just do that for the time being. So I wanted you to see the CAD median scores. For those, remember this classification of abnormal other was by clinical officers. normal or suggestive of TB. So you can see the CAD scores for those that were classified abnormal other were about 48 with a median of 45 range of interquartile range of 45 to 53. Normal were 43 with again a range of 24 to 46. However, suggestive of TB, you can see it's higher, 52 with a range of 46 to 62. And we'll continue looking at the next set of results. All right. So again, these were findings of the CAD scores. So we looked at those that had sputum tested. Remember, the reason for sputum testing was either chest X-ray abnormality and or symptoms, so cough more than 2 weeks. So for those that had sputum tested, then you can see their scores were, probably a medium of about just close to 50 with this range. And then those that were not tested then had a lower CAD for TB score. So, about, I would say about 45 and below. So the interesting part was that when we looked at those that had sputum positive, again, for this group, you can see those that were sputum positive, then their scores were quite high. So with a median of about 72, and then the range was about 38 to 98 CAD scores. Those that were sputum negative then had a median score of about 49. And then, it ranged from about 8 to 70, I think 79. But you can see, clearly they were mostly, most of them were below 50. So meaning that, for example, if we had done this we had done the prevalence survey and engaged using CAD in this case, you can probably see it would still have helped in triaging those patients that needed sputum done. Okay. So remember, I told you we did some modeling just to check, we needed to know just beyond even what we took as sputum, so sensitivity, and to answer our question of would CAD really be then a tool that could be used in community-based screening. And by our understanding, this was one of the first studies to carry out that. So we did look at when you compare clinical officer interpretation and then sensitivity, of course, quite specific. Remember, they were trained a lot to ensure that they have they can try and pick out the lesions. But when you look at now, with CAD, for example, did it meet the minimum target product profile for a screening, to assist in screening? And the answer is yes, it did. So when you look at sensitivity at 90%, then we had specificity of about 90.4%. When you then looked at specificity of 70%, then you had a sensitivity of 98. So and these are the CAD scores that will give you the various sensitivities and specificities. And then for looking at now the optimum target product profile, is that when we looked at to see whether CAD, at sensitivity of 95%, then it would give us a specificity of 83%, which is, quite acceptable in terms of the TPPs. All right, sorry. Okay, so when we look, so I'm going to show you some graphs next that really probably saying the same thing. So what at a CAD threshold of 55, at 61, what would be then the sensitivity? And then the lower one will then show what is the specificity at the other thresholds that we had also considered. Now, the variation in accuracy by participant characteristics, and this has also been highlighted in a number of presentations currently, in the field of CAD, in general, computer-aided detection software, is that then when you set the threshold at 61, which is what we tried to do here, then you will find that then sensitivity, so first of all, sensitivity was high across all age groups, but it was then highest among those. In our case, we did aging. So let me walk you through this graph. So this right here is sensitivity, and here is between 15 to 25 years, 26 to 40 years, and above 41 years. So sensitivity was highest among those 41 years and above. But they also had the lowest sensitivity when you look at specificity. Then that age group had lowest specificity in that population. The other group that also had that you had high sensitivity, again with low specificity, were those previously treated for TB. So remember, they would have a number of lesions that could not, maybe are not active TB at that moment. And so those have high sensitivity, but again, have low specificity. So I think an important area to consider when you're looking at that, and that cut across different groups. So these were females, and then these were males. And then as I come to an end, this, as a subset of that data, there is, we had also looked at, if not TB, what could it be? What other complications, or what other abnormalities would you then pick during prevalence surveys? And we used about 1,400 films, images that were reported by radiologists, and then passed those images again, looked at the scores from our subset of the prevalence data. So I will try and show you. So as you can see here, this was, so these are box plots to show that for those that had some abnormality, at least had, this is abnormal chest X-ray for any reason, so the scores were high. Active TB, clearly higher scores. So these were by radiologist reading. Then we compare what were the CAD scores. So all this down here were by expert radiologists. So those that they found that had active PTB then had higher scores, as you can see here. And also those that have old or latent TB. So remember, that's why even the previous TB, we have to be keen as to trying to really confirm, because they will still have damaged lungs, and so they will have high scores. But look at this, emphysema, asthma, possible, most of this, and cardiomegaly, which was from this paper, if you read it, this was the highest prevalence of other non-TB conditions. But the CAD score was then at 50. So that means that depending on what our threshold scores are, you're likely to then miss these other abnormalities, because, like for CAD for TB, for example, is mostly to help you, look at possible TB and probably not the other abnormalities. So this slide here is just to remind countries as they embark on chest X-ray TB screening activities. It's important to be aware that treatable and preventable lung and heart problems are likely to be as or more prevalent than active TB. So I think, again, think about that at the back of your mind, and also remember the post-TB lung abnormalities. Okay, so in summary, in my conclusion is that CAD for TB version 6 met the target product profile for population-based TB screening. It was highly accurate and useful screening and triaging tool. So the performance varied with demographic and clinical factors, with poor specificity in those older than 41 and those with previous TB. And then, history of previous TB indicates the algorithm's poor ability to differentiate between all scarring and active lesions. And as I'd said, this has been shown in other studies. And then, we need to plan for non-TB conditions that are detectable on X-ray. Yes, and this point of the cutoff scores that one of our presenters raised, it would be nice to be a sliding scale, because you can see different age groups then, may require over time, probably different threshold scores. Thank you very much. This research was funded by NIHR project. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Brenda. That was a brilliant presentation. And thank you for sharing with us those data, which shows us how accurately our system are performing in Kenya. Thank you. And next on our agenda is the Q&A session. If you have not asked your question, this is the moment to put in your question in the Q&A box. And at this juncture, we'll invite Florence and Ayomi to assist us with this session.
Yes, thank you, Sandrine, and thank you all for attending this session. And we're getting close to the end of our webinar session today, and of course approaching our Q&A. We already have a number of questions that we'll go through together with our speakers. I just wanted to thank everybody again for their presence and being here today. And I think, as Guido mentioned, our CEO, at the beginning of the webinar, and also I really liked the picture that Dr. Brenda showed of the X-ray van. X-ray in itself as a technology to be used for TB screening is nothing new. But looking at this type of technology with digital and highly portable X-ray systems, and of course using artificial intelligence to support with the interpretation of those chest X-rays, that is actually quite new. And what we have seen, as Guido mentioned, is that WHO's latest guidelines supporting those technologies, and also the desire or the push from with COVID-19 funding, which is a lot of that is also going into the procurement of portable X-ray systems. There's been a major pickup for those solutions. And as the technology is new, we understand that a lot of questions then, of course, also arise. And on the X-ray side, there might be questions like, if you use a portable X-ray system, then how do you approach radiation in the field, for example? And on AI, there might be questions, and we saw some in the chats today. How does the AI actually work? And if the AI gives a score, is there just one score that every program uses? Or is that different per program? And how does that work exactly? And of course, to make those parts even a little bit more complicated, those requirements and the regulations on that will change per country. And so what we want to do with these webinar series is basically to facilitate that we can share that knowledge. And we do that on a quarterly basis. So we have one webinar every single quarter where we invite different partners and clients of ours to speak basically about their experience, and to speak both about the opportunities and the challenges that they have faced. Because by sharing both, that is what we can learn from, of course, in practice. So before we dive into the Q&A, we really appreciate, and I wanted to extend our appreciation to our speakers today to share their experience and their expertise. Our special thanks to Dr. Daniel Gemetju from Ethiopia, Dr. Ngok An from Vietnam, Dr. Nurov Rustam from Tajikistan, and Dr. Brenda Mungai from Kenya, and also sharing the insights on the screening algorithms and procedures that they use within their programs. On a last note, we will also organize another session around the Union Conference, which is taking place in November. So if you'd like to stay up to date on that, I suggest, I would recommend to subscribe to our newsletter as well, but we'll be sharing the date in that also. Perhaps one of my colleagues can reshare that link again in the chat. We will now, together with our different speakers, go through the different questions that were posed. One of the first questions that was raised was to Dr. Ngok An following her presentation. Why was the threshold fixed, and why did you choose not to calibrate the threshold yet? We can comment on that on our side, but perhaps Dr. Engel, if you're still on the line, would you elaborate on this yourself as well?
So hello for the question. So actually in the beginning of the project, as I mentioned, the threshold is fixed because it is a default setting from the debt company. And we already discussed this issue in related calibrate the threshold that work for our TB prevalence in Pacific setting. And to date, we just received the thresholds, the instruction on how to calibrate the threshold in the system. So that is the answer for the question.
Yes, thank you. And maybe I can elaborate on that from the solution side indeed. So CAT4TB gives a score between 0 and 100. The higher that score, the higher the extent of abnormalities that are indicative of TB. And we show that score within the software. And next to that, we have in the background of the software, we have a default threshold, which we set at 60 at the beginning, where we say, okay, then if you're above 60, we also show additional information showing, okay, it's either no TB, the score is lower than 60, or presumptive TB if that's higher than 60. So you see both the score and that column has additional information. And Dr. Engelbaan is right, that's indeed that fixed at the end was at 60. We've recently also, in support of the team in Vietnam, wrote a guide about this, because this is something that people can also change in the backend. So if you're changing the score for your program to, let's say, 50, for example, or even higher or lower, then people can now change that in the backend of the software themselves as well. So I hope that answers the question that was raised by Linda. I see another question saying, hello, dear colleagues from Kyrgyzstan. My question is about locally generated evidence. Is locally generated evidence different from expected? Is it better, more compelling, or is it the same as as expected? So I think this really relates to, of course, there's a lot written about both portable X-ray and about artificial intelligence. And is what has been written and what people talk about, is that different than what people are seeing in the field? Is it similar? And I would invite any of our speakers, if there's something that they would like to say about that, perhaps to comment on this. I don't know who would like to elaborate on that specific point.
Yeah, thank you, Florence. I'll take the opportunity.
Yes.
As I've already said during my presentation, as you know, the national TB program basically functions using the routine system it follows is like symptom-based screening, and then very limited access for the patients to use digital X-ray. So with this one, there has been a massive loss of patients from accessing care and being diagnosed for tuberculosis. So the difference with this technology is like, since we used X-ray based screening, that's not like symptom based. So more patients were able to be diagnosed by this technology, which could have been missed if they were not done through this technology. And so in terms of overall the compelling evidence, what I would say is, besides the advantage that we have in using this technology in terms of screening patients for TB, diagnosing it early, and also making it accessible, it also addresses the gaps of the health system itself. So health system itself has major gaps in shortage of human resources, the infrastructure, the capacity to read. So this is mainly solved by this technology. So it adds from diagnostic capacity plus addressing the gaps in the health system. It's really compelling and it's good to use in practice. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Daniel, for elaborating on that and taking that question. There was another question posed from Svetlana Pak. My question to all presenters, what were the main challenges related to the use of artificial intelligence in the countries? And perhaps, may I ask Dr. Brenda, perhaps you could comment on this, of course, having done both the research and seeing the implementation within Kenya at the moment?
Yeah. Oh, yes. So I think if I would say, so I can start with from the research point. I mean, that was very seamless, really, especially when you have retrospective data. it's very seamless. It's more like I we use the cloud-based, and so we just uploaded images, etc. The turnaround was quite acceptable, considering we had about 60,000 images, so that was good. Now, in terms of real life implementation, is that first, especially settling for the score. For us, we had an advantage of having done this prevalence survey study. However, at country level, because I see some questions about even, what's a score about latent TB, it really is, so there's no specific score, and scores are really determined by country epidemiology, but also the resources that you have. So I think that becomes a bit more complicated. I know, countries then have to be walked through that. So I think that's what I would say. In terms of the actual then field implementation of, for example, as guys are using the card for TB box, if I can, use that. I mean, so far, I think it's been good. I think in terms of areas of troubleshooting here and there, those would then be required. If I cross a little bit into the hardware part, in terms of especially now beyond AI and just the X-ray, I see Vietnam has a similar issue that Kenya has, especially of the hanging detectors. I think this is one big issue that maybe Delft had thought through it very well, that it was portable, but it really becomes an issue. And also, I like your portable system, Dr. Anne, that I think you've made at country level. Those are some of the things that for countries that want to implement, it's good to think about that in advance, because to learn lessons of where people have modified things to help it work. But I'm sure Delft will also try and adapt their systems that way. Yeah, so implementation wise, I think, feedback and getting that corrected would be great. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Brenda, for elaborating on that. I think that's a good point. And on our side, we try to continuously innovate the different solutions that we provide to our clients and see how we can make it better based on feedback that we get in these kind of sessions, but also generally what we hear in the field. And I think one of the things, I don't know if it was mentioned here also, what was covered in the presentation, I think also from Dr. Engelkan, is, for example, connecting printers to the system. And that is something where, if you look at the X-ray system as a concept, of course, you have digital images, but it's not as simple as saying, okay, then we don't need to print anymore, because a lot of country regulations might still dictate that, of course, those images need to be printed. And then every printer, of course, can be from a different type of manufacturer. So we're trying to see with all of the different countries who have that requirement, can we connect the systems to the printer as well, which I'm confident we'll be able to do. And Dr. Brenda, you indeed touched upon the CAT-40B score, and I think there was a good question also raised about that from Victory Edem, I see here. From the studies performed, is there an agreement on the benchmark cutoff score for CAT-40B for triaging? And I think this is indeed, as Dr. Brenda mentioned, it's not an easy answer, because there is not one score, unfortunately. So to put it in the most simplistic way, of course, the higher that your score is, the higher your benchmark, basically, of what you would find as being abnormal. So the higher that your score is, the less people that you're going to follow up with for confirmatory testing. And I think this is also good to mention. Of course, CAT-40B is not intended to do the diagnosis on itself. It's really intended to triage. So what is that score? What is that threshold where we say we're going to follow that up with, for example, expert testing? And there are different ways to advise or to identify this optimal threshold, and also different organizations, such as the SubTB Partnership, have also written about these processes. There are certain ways where we can review a number of images to basically, on those images, let's say 200 images, advise what the optimal threshold is. The reality also, and this is a less scientific but a more pragmatic approach, is that it very much depends on the resources that you have, like Dr. Brenda mentioned. Often the threshold is also defined on the number of confirmatory tests that you have. So one of the questions talked about Indonesia, what we see there is that one of the screening programs that we did within prisons in Indonesia, they might have, a given, let's say 50 confirmatory tests per day that they can do. And then you can set your score at a very low, like 30 or 40, but you're going to have too many people, so to speak, then to give that confirmatory test on for the confirmatory test that you actually have. So they set the threshold looking at a couple of days screening and saying that, okay, generally the top 50 we see at a score of, let's say, for example, 80. So we're going to use 80 now moving forward as the score using the resource constraints that we have in practice. And of course, this would also very much depend on the type of, whether it's a prevalence survey, type of program that you're running. Also, the score, the threshold that you set would vary. So it is unfortunately not an easy answer to give, but I would definitely recommend SubTB also has written an implementation guide about this topic, about the different ways that you can identify the optimal threshold for you. And I think so basically after our Q&A, all of the questions and also the recording in the different languages will be sent to all of those who registered. And I would recommend to the team that we also give that a link to that type of documentation in this specific question. There's a lot of questions also that were actually also here in the chat being raised. I'm afraid we're running out of time, so we won't have time for all of them. What we would definitely like to do, perhaps we can continue a couple minutes more. For those of you that can't stay, we will also be writing out the answers to all of the questions and sending them out later on as well. I think one question that might still be interesting to mention coming from Tajikistan, saying how can we create acceptance among the community regarding these new technologies? I think that was a very good question. I would like to ask if there's one of the speakers that might relate to this question and would be willing to provide an answer to it from their perspective.
So allow me to go then. Oh, yeah, I think Kenya, which started just a couple of weeks ago, I think mid-July, for implementation at facility level, and we'll be going now deep into the community. But even just, acceptance surprisingly has been quite high. I think one is how you then communicate to the staff, to the facility staff, give them the information, guide them through the process, understand the importance. But just to give an example of what happened yesterday, there was a field visit to one of the sites, and the medical in charge also invited a local TV station to actually, document and use that as a platform to let the community know that this is available and, what its role is, etc. So I think many ways, but interesting, quite high acceptance. I think, in fact, maybe the use of the AI is more, the acceptance that you also need is from a national level and also, from the radiologists, and to understand what their role is in the whole process. So I think that's one of the learning points that we've had. But community level, I think people really believe that if you take an X-ray, you'll see, you'll see whether I have something in there. So it's been quite high. And being free, of course, as a country program, obviously, no costs attached to the patient, then that increases acceptance and accessibility. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Brenda. And I think I think on a community level, indeed, I think what we see is, of course, on the national level, the acceptance amongst perhaps regulators. Dr. Engelkamp talked also about, of course, going through the procedures on the portable X-ray side to get that verified and certified by, for example, atomic energy councils. I think that is one of a key stakeholder, of course, in these processes. And I think the same was also talked in the presentations, for example, professional associations like Association for Radiology and other medical stakeholders, which I think are quite important to be accepting such new technology for it to be successful. We've run a couple of minutes over time already. I'm sorry that we did not get to answer all of the questions. Like I said, we will be answering them. We will write them out. I see there's a question about latent TB and experience from Alvagwan about other countries on the use of CAD with non-portable X-ray systems. I think what we will do there, we'll write out a number of case studies so that you can see some case studies of where it was used with non-portable X-ray system. So I'm sorry that we did not get to all of the questions today. I'd like to very much thank everybody again for being here. Thank all of our speakers for their willingness to share their experience. And I think that will be the close from our side. Emanuela or Sandrine, do you want to finalize?
Yes, thank you very much, Florence. And I believe we are very satisfied with the answers. For the questions that are yet to be answered, do not worry, we will compile them and share them with you. And after the webinar also, we will use the last 5 minutes to answer pending questions. So if you are interested, kindly stay. So at this juncture, we are almost ending the webinar, and we want to say a big thank you to all of you who participated from various countries: Switzerland, South Africa, Mozambique, Zimbabwe, Australia, Japan, Switzerland, everywhere else. We want to really appreciate you. We know we are in various time zones and some people are joining at very uncomfortable hours. So we want to appreciate your efforts, and we are so grateful that you joined to learn more about our technology and to get more information. Also, we believe the objective of this webinar has been met, that you have had great insights, and we believe you will join us in using state-of-the-art solutions for planning and then detecting tuberculosis for the greater good of everybody. Please do not forget to subscribe to our newsletters so that you'll be informed whenever we have various webinars coming up. Also join us on our various our various social media platforms, Join us on our various social media platforms. We're on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and LinkedIn for more interactions. Until we meet again, thank you very much and stay safe. Enjoy the rest of your day. I did this moderation with Sandrine Gonsalves, and I'm Emanuela Marco. See you some other time. So as I said earlier, we have 5 minutes after this to answer pending questions. So if you have time and you're interested, kindly stay for the next 5 minutes. But if you don't, we really appreciate you and see you in our next one. Bye.
Yes, thank you, Ella. So I think from our side, since we went through most of the questions already, the other one we'll be able to tackle in our Q&A document as well. So we'll be closing the webinar and answering the remaining questions definitely in the Q&A document later on. Thank you, everyone, to be here today with us. Have a good day. Bye-bye.
Bye.